on, folks? So let's discuss something that I traditionally avoid, specific air-fuel ratios. So, as I've told you before, power doesn't come from air-fuel ratio, not the big part. Yes, it affects it. Yes, it affects longevity, but that's not the ultimate decider. Ignition timing is the ultimate decider of power, as far as between air-fuel ratio and ignition timing. But let's talk about where air-fuel ratio is super important. Air-fuel ratio is important when it comes to managing engine temperatures on an air-cooled engine. And when I say air-cooled, just understand that I mean air-cooled, or as Harley wants to call it, dual-cooled, or on the newer 117, center-cooled. So all of these engines operate at a considerably higher engine temperature than the engine in your car most likely does. Then higher than a traditional liquid-cooled engine. So when we're looking at air-fuel ratio, I want to cover today specifically boosted air-fuel ratios. Okay, so this is going to be for your supercharger turbo guys, because I get an awful lot of questions about forced induction tuning. Because there's guys out there in the country that do it, but successfully there's only a few guys that do it, especially on street bikes. So I just had a gentleman from, I believe he's from Canada, who had sent me some messaging regarding an air-fuel ratio that their tuner had set up. He's got symptomatic issues on this bike. They fought with it for quite some time, and it just isn't performing the way he would anticipate it to. He's got a lot of spit and popping, symptomatic issues. So that's concerning, but more concerning was the target air-fuel ratios that I saw for wide open throttle, like under heavy amounts of boost. So, I was seeing commanded air-fuel ratios at 12.7. That's on the richer side of a naturally aspirated air-fuel ratio, but that is way too lean for forced induction. So anytime you're looking at forced induction, and if you look at like the standard map that comes in a Thunder Max, like a standard boost table is going to set you up about, I think it's like 12.2 or 12.3. If you're making maybe 5 or 6 psi boost, that's safe. I get it. That's fine. But if you're making more boost than that, a lot of guys are running 8 or 10 or 12, or we run as much as 30 in some of our bikes, or even 35. But either way, the more boost you add, the richer that engine needs to get, to a degree. You really don't ever want to be, on pump gas, you really don't ever want to be richer than about 11.0. And the smaller that number gets, the richer it is, because that is parts air to parts fuel. So if you take a specific measurement of air and then you cut it up into, X amount of pieces, there's 14 times as much air as there is fuel. Or, as we're talking richer, we're, 13 or 12 or 11 or, 10 is pretty much the back side of the sensor. It's the bottom side of the sensor. It won't really read richer than that. 10.0 is usually where wideband sensors give up. But, in certain circumstances, there are certain fuels that could need a richer mixture. But let's say gasoline, pump gasoline, or even a race fuel. Under large amounts of boost, you want to be richer than 12. So you want to be like 11.7, 11.9, 11.3, 11.5, somewhere in there. And basically your power and your engine temperature and the way your engine responds, those things are going to let you know where that air-fuel ratio needs to be. Things that will keep it alive. Trying to target 12.7 is a recipe for disaster. That will blow an engine up, a forced induction engine up. Now, under light throttles, sure, you can lean it back up. You don't have to run nearly as rich, but you really don't want to be 14.6, 14.7 if there's any added volume of air coming from a supercharger turbo. I didn't say boost, I said added volume of air. If it's out of boost, you can skate on the leaner side. high 13s, low 14s. You know, yes, it's going to consume a little bit more fuel than a naturally aspirated engine will, but it will also keep it alive and keep it cool. And you won't have a tendency to have the lean spikes as you roll into the throttle, which cause you symptomatic issues, which is what the gentleman, as I mentioned earlier, from Canada, that's what they're running into. You know, he's got it skating the edge, so every time they blip the throttle, it doesn't just draw air in, air's being forced into that engine. So it takes such a breath of air that it's going lean before it can richen itself. So, all right, hopefully that gives you guys some insight, some information. If you have specific questions, you know, feel free to give us a call at the shop, 254-680-6881. And, you know, I'll see you guys out there. Take care.